Dr. D. Prem Anand. He has pursued his Masters, his MPhil and PhD in Physics from Loyola College, Madras University. He has been actively doing research since 2004. His area of specialization is crystal growth and its characterizations, nanomaterials and polymers which are used in solid-state batteries. He is guiding 6 more research scholars in the field of crystal growth, nanoscience and polymer science. He has published more than 75 research papers and he currently works as a professor of physics at St. Xavier's College, Palayamkotte, Tamil Nadu.
Welcome to UGC lecture series in physics for BSc Physics Honours. In the previous lecture, we discussed about second law of thermodynamics, Carnot cycle, refrigerator, and how to calculate the efficiency of a Carnot cycle, how to calculate the efficiency of a refrigerator. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about some of the basic concepts in entropy. This lecture is divided into the following topics: change in entropy in reversible process, change in entropy in irreversible process, definition of Clausius theorem and its proof, Clausius inequality, entropy and second law of thermodynamics. The first lecture is on change in entropy in a reversible process. This is a graphical representation of a PV indicator diagram where A, B, C, D is a Carnot cycle. We are going to discuss about the change in entropy in a reversible process. This is a graphical representation of a PV indicator diagram where P refers to pressure along the y-axis and volume along the x-axis. A, B, C, D is a Carnot cycle where this cycle is divided into 4 parts, where AB is an isothermal process, BC is an adiabatic process, CD is an isothermal process and DA is an adiabatic process. From A to B, heat energy is absorbed at a temperature T1, or in other words, a required amount of heat energy H1 is absorbed at a temperature T1. BC, there is no change because BC is an adiabatic process, and CD is an isothermal process where an amount of H2 is rejected at a temperature T2, and DA, there is no change because it is an adiabatic process. Thus, the total gain in entropy by the working substance in the cycle ABCDA is H1 by T1 minus H2 by T2. But we know that for a complete reversible process, H1 by T1 is equal to H2 by T2. Hence, the total change in the entropy of the working substance in a complete reversible process is integral ds H1 by T1 minus H2 by T2 is equal to 0. In all reversible process like conduction or radiation, heat is lost by a body at a higher temperature T1 and therefore it is gained by a body at a lower temperature T2. Here T1 is greater than T2. Let us consider the quantity of heat given out by a body at a temperature T1 BH and the heat gained by the body at a temperature T2 be also H. Therefore, consider the hot and the cold bodies as one system. Therefore, the loss in entropy of the hot body is H divided by T1. Similarly, the gain in entropy of the cold body is H by T2. Therefore, the total increase in entropy of the system is H by T1 minus H by T2. This H1 by T1 minus H2 by T2 is a positive quantity because T2 is far lesser than T1. Thus, the entropy of the system increase in all irreversible process. Now, let us move on to the Clausius theorem. What is the definition of the Clausius theorem? The Clausius theorem states that for a system exchanging heat with the external reservoirs and undergoing a cyclic process, integral del H by T is lesser than or equal to 0, where del H is the amount of heat absorbed by the system from the reservoir and T is the temperature of the external reservoir at a particular instant. The equality holds in the reversible case and the inequality holds in the irreversible case. The reversible case is used to introduce the entropy of a state function. This is because in a cyclic process, the variation of state function is 0, and also the temperature that enters in the denominator of the integrand in the Clausius inequality is actually the temperature of the external reservoir with which the system exchanges heat. At each instant of the process, the system is in contact with an external reservoir. Because of the second law of thermodynamics, in each infinitesimal heat exchange process between the system and the reservoir, the net change in the entropy of the universe is ds total is equal to ds system plus ds reservoir is greater than or equal to 0. When the system takes in heat by an infinitesimal amount delta H1 for the net change in the entropy ds, in this step to be positive, the temperature of the hot reservoir needs to be slightly greater than the temperature of the system at that instant. If the temperature of the system is given by T1 at that instant, then ds of system 1 is equal to delta H by T1, and where the temperature of hot reservoir is greater than the temperature T1. Therefore, we have minus ds of reservoir that is equal to delta H by T hot is lesser than or equal to delta H1 by T1 that is equal to ds of system 1. What is the proof of the Clausius theorem? This means that the magnitude of the entropy loss from the reservoir, that is modulus of ds of reservoir, is equal to delta H1 divided by temperature of the hot reservoir, that is equal to ds of the system 1, which is less than the magnitude of the entropy gain for a ds system 1 by the system. Similarly, when the system is at a temperature, expels heat in a magnitude of delta H1 into a cooler reservoir in a small steps, then again from the second law of thermodynamics to hold, we would have in an exactly similar manner minus ds of reservoir that is equal to delta H2 divided by temperature of the cold system is less than or equal to delta H2 by T2 that is equal to ds of system 2. Here the amount of heat absorbed by the system is given by delta H1, signifying that heat is transferring from the system to the reservoir, where the ds of system 2 is lesser than or equal to 0. Therefore, the magnitude of the entropy gained by the reservoir is nothing but modulus of ds of reservoir 2 that is equal to delta H2 divided by temperature of the cold system, which is greater than the magnitude of the entropy loss of the system 2. Since the total change in entropy for system is 0 in a cyclic process, and if we add all some small steps of heat intake and heat expulsion from the reservoir signified by the previous equations, with the temperature of the reservoir at each instant given by the temperature, we would have minus of integral ds of reservoir is equal to integral around a closed loop delta H1 by T is lesser than or equal to integral around a closed loop ds of system 1 is equal to 0, or in general we can write integral delta H by T is lesser than or equal to 0. Thus, we prove the Clausius theorem. Next, we will be dealing with a Clausius inequality. Let us consider, this is a schematic diagram to explain the Clausius inequality. Let us consider 3 heat reservoirs at a temperature T0, at a temperature T1 and at a temperature T2. C is a Carnot engine where A and B works as refrigerator. The Carnot engine C absorbs a certain amount of heat from the system T1, and also similarly the Carnot engine absorbs a quantity of heat from a reservoir at a temperature T2 and rejects some amount of heat H0 to a reservoir at a temperature T0. Similarly, this Carnot engine A or Carnot engine B works as a refrigerator. The refrigerator A absorbs amount of heat H0 A from the reservoir at a temperature T0, and certain amount of work is done on the system of the refrigerator. Thereby, a small quantity of heat is rejected as H2A at the temperature T2. Similarly, the engine B, which works as a refrigerator, absorbs H0 B of heat from a temperature T0 reservoir, and therefore, some amount of work is done by the system, that is by the refrigerator B, and a quantity of heat H2B is liberated out at a temperature T2 of the reservoir. The engine A, working as a refrigerator, rejects heat H1A to the reservoir at a temperature T1. Therefore, we can write H1A plus H1 is equal to 0. Similarly, we can extend this theory for the engine B, which works as a refrigerator. The engine B rejects H2B to the reservoir at a temperature T2. Therefore, H2B plus H2 is equal to 0. It means that when the 3 engines work simultaneously, there is no outstanding change in the temperature of the reservoirs at a temperatures T1 and T2, where T1 and T2 are lower and higher temperature respectively. Thus, there has been no change except for the reservoir at a temperature T0, and the mechanical system that supplied or absorbed work. Let us say if H0 is not equal to the sum of H0 A and H0 B, the reservoir at a temperature T0 must have gained or lost heat. Similarly, if W is not equal to the sum of WA and WB, the mechanical system must have gained or lost work. According to the first law of thermodynamics, the net flow of heat from or to a heat reservoir must necessarily be equal to the amount of work done on or by the mechanical system. As far as the first law is concerned, it is a matter of indifference whether the reservoir gains or loses heat, as long as the mechanical system loses or gains the same quantity of work. If the heat reservoir loses heat and the mechanical system gains an equal amount of work, it means that the whole of the heat absorbed from the reservoir is converted into work, but this violates the Kelvin-Planck statement of the second law of thermodynamics. Therefore, H0 must always be greater than the sum naught of H0 A and H0 B, except in the limiting case when they are equal. Therefore, we can derive the Clausius inequality for the engines A and B. For the engine A, H1A by T1 is equal to H0A by T0. Similarly, for the engine B, we can write H2B by T2 is equal to H0B by T0. Therefore, the quantities H1 and H2 are positive and H0 is negative. Therefore, H1 and H2B are negative and H0A and H0B are positive. Mathematically, we can write all the quantities as positive. From equation, we have H0A is equal to T0 of H1A by T1, that is equal to T0 of H1 by T1, that is equal to T0 of H1 by T1. Similarly, we can extend the same equation for the engine B, that is H0B is equal to T0 of H2B divided by T2, that is equal to T0 of H2 by T2, or it is T0 of H2 by T2. Therefore, the net quantity of heat drawn from the reservoir at a temperature T0 is H0 plus H0A plus H0B. Therefore, according to the second law, this quantity should be less than or equal to 0. Therefore, H0 plus H0A plus H0B is less than or equal to 0. Substituting the values of H0A and H0B, we can write H0 plus T0 and H1 by T1 plus T0 and H2 by T2 is less than or equal to 0. If you divide this whole equation by T0, we can write H0 by T0 plus H1 by T1 plus H2 by T2 is less than or equal to 0. In general, for a system using a large number of reservoirs, it can be written as sigma of H by T is less than or equal to 0. When the number of reservoirs is infinite and the heat exchanges takes place by infinitesimally amount, it can be written as integral delta H by T is less than or equal to 0. Therefore, this above equation represents the Clausius inequality, and this relation holds good for any cyclic process, whether it is reversible or irreversible. Next, we will be moving on to the next topic, entropy and second law of thermodynamics. This figure shows three different systems, each enclosed in a rigid adiabatic boundary. In the system A, or in part A, a body at a temperature T1 makes a thermal contact with a large heat reservoir at a higher temperature T2. In part B, what happens is the rotating flywheel drives a generator which sends a current through a resistor in a heat reservoir. In part C, a gas in the left portion of the container performs a free expansion into the evacuated region when the diaphragm is punctured. Now, suppose we start with the three systems at the end state of the above process and imagine the process to take place in the reverse direction. In the first example, the body is originally at the same temperature as the reservoir, would spontaneously cool down until its original was restored. In the second, there would be a heat flow out of the reservoir into the resistor, which would send a current through the generator, which now serves as a motor, and the flywheel would be set in rotation with its original kinetic energy. In the third case, the gas will compress itself back into its original volume. So, everyone realizes that these reverse process do not happen, but why not? The total energy in each case would remain constant in the reverse process as it is in the original, and there would be no violation of the principle of conservation of energy, because the principle of conservation of energy states that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, the energy which disappears in one form will reappear in another form without any loss. Therefore, there must be some other natural principle in addition to the first law and not derivable from it, which determines the direction in which a natural process will take place. This principle is contained in the second law of thermodynamics. The second law, which is similar to the first law, is a generalization from experience, and it asserts that certain process, of which the three considered above are examples, are essentially a one-way process, and it will proceed in one direction only. Next, the topic is entropy and the second law of thermodynamics. The three impossible reverse processes were chosen as examples because they appear at the first sight to differ widely from one another. In the first, a composite system originally at a uniform temperature would separate spontaneously into two portions at different temperatures. In the second, there would be a flow of heat out of a reservoir and equivalent amount of kinetic energy would appear. In the third, the volume of an isolated sample of gas would decrease and its pressure would increase. Many other illustrations can be given. In the field of chemistry, for example, oxygen and hydrogen gas in the proper portion can be enclosed in a vessel and a chemical reaction can be initiated by a spark. If the enclosure has a rigid adiabatic walls, the internal energy of the system remains constant. After the reaction has taken place, the system consists of water vapor at a higher temperature and pressure, but the water vapor will not spontaneously dissociate into hydrogen and oxygen at a lower temperature and pressure. Can we find some feature which all these dissimilar impossible processes have in common? Given the two states of an isolated system, in both of which the energy is the same, can we find a criterion that determines which is a possible initial state and which is a possible final state of process taking place in the system? What are the conditions under which no pressure at all can be occur and in which system is in equilibrium? This is foremost one of the important questions. These questions could be answered if there exists some property of a system, that is, some function of the state of a system which has a different value at the beginning and at the end of a possible process. This function cannot be the energy, since the energy is a constant. A function having the desired property can be found. However, this was initiated by Clausius and it is called the entropy of the system. Like the energy, it is a function of a state of the system only, and as we shall prove, it either remains constant or increases in any possible process taking place in an isolated system. Therefore, in terms of entropy, the second law can be stated as processes in which the entropy of an isolated system would decrease do not occur, or in every process taking place in an isolated system, the entropy of the system will either increase or remains constant. Furthermore, if an isolated system is in such a state that its entropy is a maximum, any change from that state would involve a decrease in entropy and hence it will not happen. Therefore, the necessary condition for the equilibrium of an isolated system is that its entropy shall be maximum. Note carefully that the statements above apply to isolated systems only. It is quite possible for the entropy of an isolated system to decrease in an actual process, but it will always be found that the entropy of other systems with which the first interacts increases by at least an equal amount. The second law has been stated here without defining entropy. In the next sections, the concept of entropy is developed by using first the properties of the Carnot cycle and then by calculating entropy changes during the reversible and irreversible process. After a discussion of the physical significance of entropy production, equivalent alternative statements of the second law will be presented. Therefore, to summarize, we have the total change in entropy of the working substance in a complete reversible process is integral around a closed loop, that is integral ds is equal to h1 by t1 minus h2 by t2 is equal to 0. Similarly, the total increase in entropy of the system is equal to h1 by t1 minus h2 by t2. Therefore, the Clausius theorem states that for a system exchanging heat with external reservoirs and undergoing a cyclic process, integral delta h by t is less than or equal to 0. The number of reservoirs is infinite and the heat exchanges takes place by infinitesimally amounts, and it can be written as integral delta h by t is less than or equal to 0. In terms of entropy, the second law can be stated as process in which the entropy of an isolated system will decrease do not occur, or in every process taking place in an isolated system, the entropy of the system either increases or remains constant. Now, we come to the end of this lecture. These are all the possible questions. Discuss the change in entropy of a reversible process. Discuss the change in entropy of an irreversible process. State Clausius theorem. Prove Clausius theorem. Explain Clausius inequality. Define entropy. Thank you.